Hi, my name is Erica Jones, and you are watching the Archetypal News Network. I am a counseling astrologer and a practitioner of mystical arts and metaphysical healing, and you'll find my practice at realimaginal.com, where I offer astrological consultations as well as intuitive readings and healing rituals. Today is May 23rd, 2024. And I am making this video on the occasion of the Sagittarius full moon, which just happened earlier this morning on May 23rd, or this morning US Pacific time. And this particular moon could bring quite a few of us a boost of energy, of feeling liberated, a bit more freedom coming into our lives, or at least the recognition of areas where we do have freedom of movement and the ability to make our way, to discern more choices, to be presented with more choices. For many of us, this could be in the social sphere as the planet of our social lives, of harmony, of relationship. Venus makes a conjunction to Jupiter and Uranus. And that particular combination of planets, it's very infrequent to have those three in the same spot in the sky. And that particular combination correlates to exciting social activities, things that are pleasant, as well as perhaps disruption of our typical social activities, seeing our friend groups change up or alliances shifting, opening up new opportunities by releasing old relationships. For many of us, it could just be a very exciting time of generative social connection and new possibility in those ways. For others of us, it could be the ending of chapters in relationships which have reached a conclusion. With Jupiter there is a tendency for there to be a positive cast to it. Jupiter can bless the things that it touches. So even if there is a bit of a sad parting, it may be that there is quite a bit of relief in it as well. Jupiter is highlighted under the Sagittarius full moon because Sagittarius is related very strongly to the planet Jupiter, and they share a lot of the same qualities. And this lunation is really welcoming a big shift in energy as 4 different planets move out of Taurus, where they've been since about April 20th or so. There's been a sort of more of an earthy feeling with planets in Taurus, and the Sun, Venus, Jupiter, and Mercury will all be in a different sign, in the sign of Gemini, by June 3rd. So it's a pretty big shift in feeling, and I think many of us could expect a lot of different opportunities to present themselves, or at least to suddenly come into awareness. Perhaps they've been there all along, but we've been closed off, or our attention's been elsewhere to even notice different possibilities for ourselves or for our projects and the people that we love. When planets move into air signs at this point, now they're having to deal with Pluto right away. Pluto just moved into the sign of Aquarius in March last year. And so it's on its way back. It's in retrograde. Pluto, which is a heavy evolutionary energy, very empowering, an influence that's difficult to get a handle on because it does things to us more than we have any control over it. It's in retrograde motion and will be moving back to Capricorn later this summer, I believe in September. But moving into air signs now, all of those planets are going to make a trine, which is a supportive, helpful aspect to Pluto, and can certainly bring a lot of energy to the plans that we want to make, to give drive and force and momentum to many of the new ideas or new relationships, or the trajectory of leaving relationships can be really supported by that particular influence, and to bring us some faith and confidence, some depth of connection to our own ability to discern, to know things, and to seek truth, such as when it comes to Jupiter. And just prior to all of those planets entering into the sign of Gemini, we have Mercury conjoining Uranus on May 31st. So this could really bring in, it's just another signification of fresh new ideas, of new possibilities, opportunities coming out of nowhere, just things we couldn't have seen or foreseen. And wherever you do have a chance to network, to connect with others, to take up new social opportunities or business opportunities or ways of connecting, it would be a good idea to really remain broad-minded and just allow the connections to come and see what comes of them, to see what will endure. Because as each of these 4 planets move through the sign of Gemini, they're going to make a square to Saturn eventually. The Sun, for instance, will make a square to Saturn on June 9th, Venus just before that on June 8th, and Mercury will come in a bit later, June 12th, making a square to Saturn. What this means is that all of the fresh ideas or possibilities or things might be percolating up in our field of awareness will meet with the test of time, of endurance. And with the particular aspect that's being made, the square, it could be that we didn't realize right away that we would have to pick and choose. It's sort of our hand being forced to examine closely the kind of connections that we want to welcome into our lives, or the things that we want to continue or discontinue even. For some, in some scenarios, it just may be the final push to separate, to part ways with a project or with a person or a company, whatever the case may be, this sort of discernment and really seeking out what will stand the test of time, because Saturn is all about time and that which endures. The last piece I will mention is Jupiter square Saturn, which will be exact later in August, but that particular long-term transit is already starting to come into being. July 2024 through June 2025 is really the orb of influence for that particular long-term transit, and certainly heralding a lot of contraction. Where Jupiter represents expansion, Saturn is contraction. They have a lot of oppositional qualities to our perception, the way that humans tend to organize experience. Jupiter coming into this square alignment for many of us could correlate to a testing point for anything that's tied to the slow, progressive growth that Jupiter-Saturn represents. We tend to see it a lot in social situations, the testing of nations' bonds, the way that communities hold together or are driven apart or have to really reckon with their differences and to find common ground. This is definitely a very strong theme that I think we can see in many venues, but is certainly going to be, I think, brought even more to the surface, being even more in public discourse, and then of course in our own lives, what on a more personal level, with whom do we associate? Do the crowds, the communities that we connect with still reflect our own values? Will the structures and the institutions, that's Saturn, that we are tied to really and contribute to our growth, Jupiter? Does it lend us a sense of faith in the future, or optimism or hope? Or is there a general cast of difficulty with accessing hope, faith, and optimism that's represented by Jupiter? It's definitely one of the more serious influences that we have, and I think will bring out the problematics around any rapid developments or rapid growth on the planet or in our personal lives. And on that note, with Jupiter's entry into the sign of Gemini, which is associated with Mercury, I think really signifies the rapid deployment of technological advances that have come in so quickly through the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction that is just wrapping up. I do believe that it's just another portent. Gemini being related to communications and the ways that we make connections between communities and indeed between all the realms. Mercury, who's associated with Gemini, can talk to all the gods, all the beings in the underworld, the middle world, the upper world. And that breadth of communication capacity, the messenger aspect, I think is Jupiter is really going to expand it, but hitting that square, that's a problematic aspect with Saturn. The problematics of it will also be in evidence. To bring up one of those, it's estimated that the average technologically engaged person receives about 270 notifications a day. Just let that sink in. 270 like dings and interruptions of your awareness, like notifications from apps on your phone, emails, social media. Just think of it. There's hundreds of interruptions in a typical day. That's the average, 270. I mean, I find it mind-blowing. Maybe this doesn't faze you, but there is a reality that that's actually impacting our ability to feel, to perceive, to know, to cognize what is going on. This sort of constant interruption, and the way that technology, Jupiter-Uranus having really, brought a lot forward in the form of AI, and I'm sure in other areas yet to be so hyped as that has been, that has brought to the surface and brought forward so many innovations that are moving far more quickly than ethics would ever be able to keep up with. And you think of that Jupiter-Saturn square as a bit of an ethical quandary, right? And in our individual lives, having to make a choice of how we interact with that technology to bring more awareness. It could be that the mindful pause that we are all capable of taking could have more impact now than at any other time previously. This quote came to my attention twice in a week, and so I thought I would use it here. It seems very fitting. From the psychologist Viktor Frankl. He writes, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and freedom. And I cannot think of a better way to frame Jupiter's entry into Gemini in the current gestalt and our current zeitgeist or spirit of the times, making a stressful aspect to the planet of limitations, which is Saturn, all about discernment, about a more conscious choice, whether we're forced to make it more conscious or it's a willful act of service to our well-being, to the well-being of the future that we want to birth, to the present moment that we want to live. So with that, I do hope that this little forecast and outlook is of service to you. And again, my name is Erica Jones. I am a practicing astrologer. You can find my work at realimaginal.com. I'd love to connect with you for consultation, or even I do intuitive readings and healing rituals as well. You'll see everything on my website. And so I offer this with best wishes for your well-being in all the ways.